Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. We're so happy to have each and every one of you on here. Good to see you, Dr. Whyte.
Good to
How
see
was
you
your
as well.
How was your Monday?
My Monday's been really busy. A lot going on, but that's okay.
Yes. My Monday was it wasn't as busy. It wasn't busy as most Mondays. It was actually a good Monday so far. So, but yes,
Well,
your
that's
your
good.
Monday is busy, but you made it here. So we
Thank you.
are thankful, so very thankful that you're here. And just thankful for our viewing audience. Please put in the chat where you are viewing from so we can say a special welcome to you. It's good to see your bestie is here. He's always first.
Clint, how's it going, man? Good to see
Yes.
you, brother.
Yes, always good to see him. And Candace
Hey,
B, good
Candace.
evening. Good evening to you as well. And tonight is a big topic. I was, we just thinking about forgiveness, and we were just talking about how huge this topic is, and it's huge because there's so much hurt and pain out there. But we're going to talk about the power of forgiveness. But before we jump into that, I want to just say welcome to Veronica from Washington State. Also, that Shan from Beaufort, Georgia. Welcome. Good to see you here. So, yes, I don't know what happened. Okay, there you are. I was like, don't disappear already, Dr. Whyte. Okay. So, don't go anywhere. All right. So, yeah, definitely this program is mixed with your questions and comments. So, please put that in the chat because we're here to take your questions about forgiveness and the power of forgiveness and what that really looks like. Because I think we're going to jump into it, but I just want to say I think people become afraid of forgiveness because of somebody else's definition of what that looks like. And so we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about
Totally.
that.
And what
Yes.
you're going to walk away from with this is a process, an organized process for how you can approach forgiveness, because
Yes.
it's so important that you not overwhelm yourself. And that's what really makes it really difficult to participate in, if you approach it in such a way where you overwhelm yourself.
Right. Right. So you always throw questions out to me, and I'm not prepared. So I'm gonna throw a question out to you, not prepared. We
Say
didn't
that.
plan this. So now I just want to ask you. I mean, have you experienced, in your life, and I'm sure you have. You've lived life. You're human, right? Where you've had to exercise forgiveness because somebody has hurt you.
It's interesting because the minute you ask that question, my mind immediately goes to the scores of people who have hurt you, you know,
Mhm.
from from your fellow from your fellow person that's driving, to a close family member,
Right.
people, you get let down from time to time, and sure, people hurt you. Um, and we're going to talk about why forgiveness is so important, but the person that you have to work at forgiving the most is probably yourself,
Mercy.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And have I ever let myself down? Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And I just think it was such a powerful message this past Saturday, how important it is that we participate in the process of forgiveness as we position ourselves to receive forgiveness.
Right. Right. Let's see. They're saying you have an echo. I don't hear the echo, but
Yeah.
one person, Gigi's, hears the echo. So, um, not sure because we've tested it before we went on. Yes, and I don't hear an echo. Do you hear echo? Now we don't hear you at all.
Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
I don't hear echo. So, okay.
Candace
All
is
right.
still here.
Candace hears echo too.
How would we fix that?
I'm not sure.
I usually
Okay.
can
They're
depart
like,
and come back or something.
yeah, I don't know though, because yeah, why don't you come out and come back? I think I definitely turned everything down here. Yes, I'm not sure what to do. Okay. All right. Okay, guys, we're gonna work on that. Just go out and
Yeah,
go out and come back. And we'll, yeah, I'm just gonna encourage them while you're gone to send in your questions, even your comments about forgiveness. This is especially, and I don't want to jump ahead of what we're going to say here, but again, I believe that.
I just hope I don't shut the whole program down. So anyway, all right.
Oh yeah, I know. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you will if you just go and come back. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah. So it's forgiveness. It can be very challenging and hard because I think people think that if you forgive, that means that you're not going to have any memory of it anymore, or that you're excusing what the person did, and that's not what forgiveness is at all. It does not take away the fact. Let's see. Yeah, let's see.
It's still there, unfortunately. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and maybe turn your audio down some more because I think it's up higher than it was before.
Okay, turning it down. How's that?
I don't hear echo.
Testing one,
so
two,
hopefully
three.
it's better.
You guys hearing an echo?
No, people are saying no.
She said no. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, this is better. I think this is better.
Yes, and I don't hear one. So okay, so I was just explaining to the audience that forgiveness, again, I think people are afraid of actually exercising that forgiveness because they think that may mean that you're saying, well, I forgive you, it's okay what you did, and that's not what forgiveness is. It's, you're not excusing what they did, you're not justifying it. Forgiveness is not justifying what somebody did, and so they hold on to bitterness and unforgiveness because they want to keep that person in bondage, right? But in reality, we keep ourselves in bondage, and we hurt ourselves. There's been studies that have done that just have shown that unforgiveness affects our mental health, our physical health, because of the bitterness and the hatred that we keep, and it just is physically not good for us. And so, yeah, that's what unforgiveness can do. But yeah, the book. You can talk about the book.
Right. So this book, Helping Clients Forgive, was something I got exposed to while in psychiatry training. And it's a book by Dr. Robert Enright and Dr. Richard P. Fitzgibbons. And, obviously we're not going to do a workshop for you this evening on forgiveness, but we are going to introduce you to the 4-step process that they champion to effectively go through the process of forgiveness. And you want to know, if we did do a workshop, one of the first things we would do is we would start by sharing with you what forgiveness is not. And so Sister Atonte just kind of shared some of the myths. Maybe if you mute your mic while I'm talking, let's see if the thing still.
Are they saying the echo's back?
I can hear it. Let testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. And so your mic is muted?
It's not, but
you can mute it and let's just test it. Testing 1 2 3, testing. All right. It's testing. I mean, I'm good. So I think, yeah, when you mute it, I'm good. Yeah, it was good now. But if you unmute. Testing 1 2 3, testing. Now it comes back. So that's what we can do. Like, while we can take turns.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Okay. And they're already populating it with some questions. So Irene said, when you forgive someone for what they have done, does that still mean you have to be friends with them when you no longer want the relationship? Great question. You want to tackle these questions, or should we? Let's get right into it. So this is what Sister Tante was starting to talk about. Like what forgiveness is not. Um, Setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries is a gift, and it's actually something healthy. Um, so for a person to be in your inner circle, they have to demonstrate that they belong there. And just because they demonstrate they don't belong in your inner circle, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make them that you guys, that it's wicked or what have you. um, it just means they don't belong in your inner circle. When God comes and he rids the world of sin, who knows what's possible at that point, you know? But in the meantime, the person may have demonstrated that they cannot function with you constructively um, in this context. So you can absolutely forgive the person, but at the same time, it's healthy to have good boundaries. They say great fences make great neighbors, you know. So I would say you don't have to be friends with a person as a condition of forgiveness. You can completely forgive a person and they're not in your inner absolute circle. At least these are my thoughts. We, of course, are not your mental health counselors. And so these concepts that we provide you, please filter them through your mental health team, um, and make sure you apply it to your situations, because we don't know your situation, and that's why we can't really speak to your particular situation. But the overall guiding principle from my perspective is I don't have to have the world in my inner circle, and I certainly don't have to have somebody that I've forgiven in my inner circle. What are your thoughts, Sister Tante?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything that you said. And I think that there was another question that went along with that, or it was Joanne Stephen asked that something similar to that. If you forgive, do you have to follow up with reconciliation? Like you don't, because you forgiving doesn't mean that the person has changed, right? So it doesn't mean that they're this new person that will not hurt you again, or do something that's going to be again very hurtful. So you set up, like Dr. Whyte said, those boundaries. And so reconciliation is not, that can happen. But it's not always the best to do that if a person has not changed and they're going to continue to hurt you. But that doesn't have anything to do with your forgiveness, because your forgiveness is for you and for you to be emotionally and physically healthy and be the best version of yourself. And it's easy to say these things. It's if you view it in a way that it's not, when you feel those emotions of just being mad or angry or hurt, it's not so easy to do. But then if you reframe those thoughts and feelings, and just try to have a different perspective of, okay, I acknowledge that what this person did was wrong and they hurt me, and it wasn't right. But now I'm going to free myself from holding on to this bitterness and this pain, because it's hurting me. It's causing anxiety. It's causing depression. It's causing, in some situations, low self-esteem, or there's just a variety of things that can happen. Also, Diana asked, should you need to forgive and forget? So, forgetting, it's not, it's not possible to truly forget something and not acknowledge that it happened. So you could forgive and still remember, but because your perspective has changed and you've reframed, your thinking about what happened, you're not saying that it didn't hurt. You acknowledge that it hurt and what they did was wrong, but you can still forgive and still remember and free yourself at the same time. It's a special, powerful thing. Dr. Whyte?
Well said.
Okay.
No.
And
Well,
I don't
well
think you
said.
have to mute yourself because I don't have any, but I think I have to mute myself when you talk, so you can be free. I free you.
Well, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think forgetting is necessarily a prerequisite for forgiving. And unfortunately, it's just not how the mind works. It's not like, we really can delete, a memory. I think there's something to be said about not rehearsing things. There's something to be said about not rehearsing things. Like, for those of us in relationships, once we've settled an argument, it's important to not bring it up in a context where it's inflammatory. Okay. um Sometimes people bring it back up in a way where it kind of is weaponized. All right, so we don't want to weaponize our memories. That said, when we've healed from something and we can both laugh at it, I don't know that it's obligatory that you forget it. Actually, remembering it can sometimes be very therapeutic, actually, and something you guys can have a good laugh at. You just have to make sure you really and truly have healed from it, or it's moved on. So I wouldn't say forgetting is an obligatory part of forgiveness. There is an important part to not rehashing. And I think that's not rehashing, not weaponizing, not holding it over the person's head and revisiting it and emotionally manipulating. Like, I think those are some of the things that go along with holding on to it rather than letting it go. Sister Tante, were you wanting to tackle this question, or you want me to take the first shot?
Yeah, you could. Sorry, you can take
Sorry
that
about
first.
it.
Go ahead.
How can I best respond to someone who won't leave an abusive relationship because she keeps quoting the 70 times 7 verse? This is Gigi. How can I respond to someone who won't leave an abusive relationship because she keeps quoting the 70 times 7 verses? Well, Gigi, one of the things I would recognize, and again, we don't know all the details, so just please recognize that. Um, One of the things we have to recognize that God, God, the all-powerful creator, holds himself under the principle of free will. Free will. Free will for all of us is sacrosanct. It's a sacred thing that we as adults, we have the power to make decisions for ourselves. And because we're inside of those decisions, it's only we that know what the dynamics are that are making us say, this is the best decision for me at this time in this moment. So that while we can make recommendations and while we can come to the conclusion that maybe this is not the best decision, um, much like God, we have to respect a person's exercise of their free will. One of the things that I had to recognize being a parent was that this phrase is very freeing. It's their turn at bat. If you've ever watched baseball or softball, you even have batting coaches. But what I've never seen is a batting coach say, I'm going to go and hit the ball for you. They can coach from the sidelines, they can give their opinion, but at some point, it's that person's time at bat because that's a sacred part of being a human. You get to make your decisions and you get to reap the consequences of those decisions, whether good or bad. So, as we stand from the sidelines, especially after we've given our recommendations, we can pray for people. We can, to some degree, be available where that's practical, but we have to respect the universal free will that we as human beings have all been endowed with by our creator. Sister Tante, I'll mute.
Okay. Yeah, again, agree with all of that information that was shared. And, you can't force someone to leave. What what this person needs to come to the realization is that, she's quoting a Bible verse that's talking about to forgive 70 times 7. And she has to come to the realization that she can eventually forgive this person without allowing herself to remain in an abusive situation. And that's what we were talking about. Does forgiveness always equal reconciliation? And it does not always do that, especially when I don't know what this abuse is, if it's emotional or physical. But if when you're in a bad situation, there's nothing wrong with removing yourself from that situation. And this is a Christian person because they're quoting the Bible, so I believe I'll just assume that they're a Christian. And so they can, there's nowhere that in God's word that he wants to allow us to be in an abusive situation. And that being in a situation and forgiveness are two separate things. You can still forgive somebody and not be in the situation physically or emotionally.
And there's one more thing. There's one more thing, and that is, especially even when we make relationship choices, sometimes there is a payoff, a lot of times hidden, that will have us continue a relationship, even a toxic relationship. And worst case scenario, sometimes it's even subconscious. Sometimes you're not even conscious of what that payoff is. Sometimes you're conscious, but those are some of the dynamics that I'm talking about, where you'll see a person stay in a relationship, but there's a payoff of some sort. One of the payoffs at times is a person, for example, being afraid of being alone. Okay, that's an example of a payoff at times. Now, obviously, I don't know this scenario, so I can't possibly be saying that's it. And I'm not trying to, I'm just trying to give you a random example of some of the factors that can be in play. Um, and this is why we have to get so comfortable with valuing ourselves and recognizing our value, and enjoying who it is that we are, being somewhat accepting of who we are, because that way, um, we are not afraid of being alone, and we then do not subject ourselves to abuse and toxicity, because at the end of the day we're thinking, well, at least I'm not alone. But instead we recognize, no, I'd rather be alone. I value myself. I know how to have a good time with myself, expanding my understanding, my learning, expanding my skill sets, exposing myself to new experiences that are uplifting, and not being at the mercy of the company of others. Over to you, sis.
Yeah, this question we have here is it's a really good one. I think Angelina is asking, should you feel bitter even after you forgive the person? And forgiveness, um, it's an event, and you can forgive somebody, and you can free yourself and emotionally feel well. Doesn't mean that you will never be tempted to fall back into an unforgive. And so let me take that back. When you do forgive, you should not have the emotion of bitterness towards that person still, because you're freeing them. You've changed the perspective on how you process what happened, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have a close relationship with them or even be reconciled with them, but you understand what it is, what they did, and you almost humanize them and separate them from the actual thing that they did. And so you still acknowledge that it was a bad thing. You are, not taking that away, but you're in that space where you forgive them. And again, it doesn't mean that at some point in your life, you may, whatever circumstances happen and you are triggered to want to go into that space of unforgiveness again. And so you have to revisit that, and you can work that same process that you did previously and forgive them emotionally again if you find that you still have bitterness and hatred for them.
Sister Tante, do you think
Yeah.
this might be a good space where we can share the four-step process? Because it might answer Angelina's questions as well. All right, beautiful. So the four-step process that they talk about involves four principles. Number one is uncovering. Number two is decision. Number three is work. and number 4 is deepening. And I will walk you through briefly what's happening in each of those stages. And let's just do this. Okay, beautiful. So in the uncovering phase, what they say is that a client gains insight into whether and how the injustice and subsequent injury have compromised his or her life. So, what you can see in this phase is that the person has taken the time to really take stock of what has happened and what they have lost. When a person is in need of you forgiving them, a lot of times what can take place is that the person has taken something from you. Okay, when you really look at when a person has wronged you, something's been taken from you, and when something's been taken from us, like I don't know if you've ever, like, if someone's borrowed a wrench or a comb or a tool or whatever, like now when you're trying to do your thing, you can't find that thing. And so, whether it's emotional energy or on and on and on, the bottom line is they've taken that thing from you. And so, in the uncovering phase, you're taking time to take stock of what it is they've taken. Now, while I'm going through these phases, you're going to be thinking about something that someone has done to you. And let me warn you now, do not go to the worst thing someone's ever done to you. All right. Because as we continue in this phase, you are going to get stuck and you're going to be like, oh, I can't go any further now. And that's because you've gone to the worst thing someone's ever done to you, which a lot of people, you're not prepared to do the psychological maneuvering. So let me warn you, don't do that. Okay. All right. So the first phase, uncovering, take time to take stock of what you lost. All right. In the next phase, it's the decision phase, and that's where the client gains an accurate understanding of the nature of forgiveness, and they make a decision to commit to forgiving on the basis of this understanding. Okay, so you come to a decision. You know what? I understand the nature of forgiveness, and I am now going to make the decision to forgive. Okay. So first you uncovered, man, they really did me wrong. And now you say, okay, so this is the nature of forgiveness. Okay, I'm deciding to forgive. All right. So now in the third stage, now it's the work phase. So in the work phase, the client gains a cognitive understanding of the offender and begins to view the offender in a new light, resulting in positive change in affect about the offender, about the self, and about the relationship. That's why they call it the work phase. Were you wanting
The
to chime in on
hard,
this one, sis?
I was going to say the hard phase. Yes, it's the work phase for a reason.
So you can imagine now if you went to the worst thing that was done to you. Understand that the work phase, that's why we're saying don't do that. Don't go to the worst phase. Go to something much lighter, because what this is challenging you to do is to take the offender's perspective, to try to gain an understanding of what's going on with this person. Why did they do that? And you and I both know if this was a really terrific and horrible, by terrific I mean awful, um, uh, egregious thing that this person did, you might not be at the space to try to empathize with that offender. You might just not be there yet. And the thing is, you don't force yourself, necessarily. And this is where sometimes you might need some support. You might need some time, some distance from what took place. You might need some professional help to shift your perspective. But I want you to see that this is the work phase. This is why it's so challenging. Okay. Um, uh, but what you're shifting to is you're shifting to the ability now to actually understand that person and have an improved affect towards them. So this is where we had that question before. Should you be bitter? Can you forgive and yet be bitter? And what you're seeing is in that work phase, that's where you're kind of eradicating that bitterness. You're transitioning from that bitterness. And then to the last phase is the deepening phase. So now the client finds increasing meaning in suffering. They feel more connected with others and experience a decreased negative affect and at times a renewed purpose in life. Okay, this is deepening. Okay, as we go through that process of forgiveness, now you're connecting somewhat better to others, and you're getting a renewed purpose in life, because at the end of the day, the most important person we need to forgive is ourselves. So often our standards are so high and our expectations are so high, even for ourselves. Well, we disappoint ourselves, and we need to be more forgiving of ourselves, more nurturing of ourselves, and stop being so self condemning. And if we don't learn this process um, of forgiving others, we certainly are going to have a difficult time forgiving ourselves. And that'll be a problem. Sis, were you wanting to hop in there?
Yeah, no, those four steps are, they're amazing. They're definitely a process, especially that third one. I think by that fourth one, you learn, once you get there, you connect with others. And I think you show empathy or have more empathy for others because you've been through something and you've been hurt and you've been through that whole process. So it allows you to show more empathy to other people and connect with people.
And one,
So,
and
yeah,
one
go
more
ahead. Go ahead.
one more thing. And this is really the piece de resistance. This is the piece de resistance. The reason you want to go through this process, and you want to see how gut-wrenching it is to forgive someone, why it is that you want to participate in this process of giving someone something they will never truly deserve. Because when somebody takes something from you, there's no quantifying what it is they took from you. Okay, but the reason you want to go through that process and see what it's like to extend forgiveness to someone is so you'll have some insight into what a person will have to go through in order to extend forgiveness to you. At
Yes.
some point, presuming you are not God, you will fall short, you will disappoint, and you will hurt someone, and you will be in a position where you need forgiveness.
Right.
And it's really hard to understand the gift that's being given to you if you don't take the time to extend it to someone.
To someone else. Yes. But getting to that fourth phase helps you to be able to do that. Sunshine Rain has a question. She says, I was very hurt by a family member, and after forgiving them, now they want to have a relationship with my children, their niece and nephew. How do I set boundaries? Please give an example. So, I mean, I think we've touched on this already because we were saying that, forgiveness doesn't mean that you can have to still have a relationship, with this person, or allow them to be in your life, so you can set boundaries, especially if it's, I don't know, a situation where it's, if you brought up your children and niece and nephew, if it's a situation where these children could possibly be in danger. I don't know the situation, or just be in a situation that they could get hurt or abused. We don't know.
Right.
But you definitely, all of the facts and information. And so you can definitely, if you don't feel like it's a good thing for, this person to be around these children, your children, niece and nephew, you definitely can set boundaries, and you don't have to allow your children to be around this person if you think that they haven't changed and they're possibly in danger. That doesn't mean you haven't forgiven them.
And this is how I would answer that. This is how I would answer that. Um, it would be so helpful when people ask for forgiveness if one of the things they confessed is, I actually don't deserve your forgiveness. Okay? Like there is nothing there's nothing really that obligates a person to forgive you. I mean, other than God telling us that we need to forgive people. So that's so I understand that. I understand that. What I'm really saying is, me as a person deserving the forgiveness, I have to appeal to your mercy, right? And by definition, I'm not entitled automatically to your mercy. Mercy is a free gift. And that's the beauty of forgiveness. You are in the position to give something to someone they never really truly will deserve. But you do it because one day you'll be in that position among others. But here's what I'm getting to, particularly with that question. Me asking for forgiveness, I am in no position to tell you what you need to do. If I'm asking you for forgiveness, you have every right, in a sense, to kind of set the terms. And so it's kind of overstepping things if I turn around and I say, okay, I need you to forgive me. All right, and now I'm going to be inviting myself to a guest, dinner that you're having over at your home. I'm going to be over there. And by the way, yeah, you go ahead and forgive me. No, I get to appeal to your mercy, and then I'm subject to the terms you choose to set. And I'm really not in a position to impose any preconditions or conditions or blah blah blah. It's no, I'm kind of at the mercy of the situation that you said. Now, there are a million situations where what I'm saying would be completely inaccurate, and that's why these are general principles, that we're trying to offer as best we can. But it's really best in the context of some good therapy where you can then apply it to your situation or your mental health team or your trusted advisors, because you then have to apply it specifically to your situation. But I think we can all agree that it's kind of a tall order for me to say, forgive me, and these are the terms. And now I can start making demands on you. Over to you, sis.
Yeah, no, the person that is in need of forgiveness cannot turn around and start making demands on the person that is extending forgiveness. Yeah, absolutely not. We have another question. It says, I remember attending a seminar about forgiveness when I was, and I shouldn't say question, this is actually a comment, but when I was in college, and it helped me tremendously. I had so much hate in my heart for the particular person who hurt me. I felt a sense of relief. And I wanted to highlight that because that's what true forgiveness is like. Like, it's freeing to you, it's healing to you, it gives you freedom. And so it's not so much about the other person or the person that needs forgiveness or that you're going to extend forgiveness to. It's about you healing and you being okay. And again, you can forgive and you can have that relief, and you still don't have to allow this person to be a part of your life. That doesn't mean you haven't forgave them. It just means it may not be a safe space emotionally. Sometimes physically, it's just not a safe space to let them come back in.
Yeah. This is where we can shamelessly plug Pastor Myers' sermon, where he, I mean, that was one of the most powerful sermons. It's funny because he promised that it would be life changing, and it really was life changing. And but this past week, you can just go back and see that sermon. But it's a call to action in terms of why we need to be actively in the exercise of forgiveness. Because what if God is going to meter out to you the forgiveness that you meter out to others? What if the question is, I'll forgive you, but I'll just follow your example of how you forgive people? Like, man, how much of us would get forgiveness at that point? And so hopefully it should motivate us to really engage in quality forgiveness. But here on earth, it's safe to set boundaries. And then Clint says, sin is heavy to carry. Over to you, sis.
Yeah, no, I love that. So it is heavy to carry. it just piggybacks on the answer that we gave to the last question, that it is very heavy to carry. And again, unforgiveness doesn't hurt the person who caused you pain. It hurts you. And I know when we are treated badly and things happen, and it hurts. And that's why the 4-step process that Dr. Whyte went over is so very important, because it is a process. This is not an overnight thing, like somebody did something terrible to you on Monday, and Tuesday you just don't feel anything, you don't have any emotions or care. No, it's a process. It's a process. And that's what those 4 steps are all about. But God wants you to be emotionally free and healthy. And that's why he wants us to extend forgiveness to others, because it's healthy for you. And like Clint said, it is a heavy burden to share. And so when we release it, we feel so much better. And that's what God wants for you. But it's a process, and nobody can put a timeline on your forgiveness. Just like with grief, I would say the same thing with grief. There's no timeline with grief. It's a journey, and forgiveness is a journey and a process too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because emotions have a connection to our physiology. Emotions, they have a direct connection. I mean, the more that we study the human body, the more studies are done, they show how intertwined our psychological disposition is to our biological disposition. Meaning, you get enraged, heart rate's going up, blood pressure's going up, you know, so on and so forth. Like that thinking is connected to a physical manifestation. In keeping with that, if you are bitter, what is the physiological connection to that? How does it impact your immunity, your ability to defend and ward off illnesses, from cancer to infections to so on and so forth? If you're bitter, if you have a negative psychological disposition, is it connected to your physical well-being? And the studies more and more are showing that it is. There is a negative relationship. In contrast to when we can have a disposition of being at peace, when we can find resolution to these psychological problems, it actually serves us in a positive way.
Yes, it does. I mean, you're the doctor, but yes, I mean, the body, it treats stress and anger and resentment all the same. I mean, the body doesn't know, like, okay, you've been hurt, so it's okay. I mean, it still, because you're sad and you're bitter and understandably so, because someone has done something to you. But when you hold on to that and keep it does physically harm your body. You're
Yeah.
right.
So, and if you want some concrete physiology on this, there's a stress hormone by the name of cortisol, which most of us are pretty familiar with. And when cortisol pulses, so it pulses in response to acute stress. So that's where it's time limited stress. Body responds really well to pulsatile release of cortisol. And, when you activate the stress response, it spikes and then it comes back to normal. Body's okay with that. But there's another kind of stress where it's chronic stress, where it's not as time limited and where it is sustained and over time, and you have these sustained elevations of cortisol. That has been shown to be much more damaging to the body, whether to the neurons or to physiology like increased heart rate and blood pressure and these kinds of things. Um, that is much more damaging. And these things can be connected to our psychological disposition. This is why this is nothing for us to ignore. This is something that we need to pay attention to. How do I get myself into the mindset that's more healthy for my physiology?
Yes, and we have another question, and there's not a lot into this question, so I'm going to assume a lot of things. But how do you know when the boundary is pride? Um, so without knowing a lot about, because that question was very general and asked without a lot of information, typically when you're setting a boundary, um, you're doing it to protect yourself emotionally or to just, protect, the things that you're doing, and you feel like, you have to say what Dr. Whyte says, the beautiful no, or, those type of things. That's setting a boundary. Um, so typically setting boundaries is not an act of pride. But if you are setting a boundary because you're trying to protect something in yourself emotionally, or, if what is going on and happening is causing you emotionally or physical pain, and you need to set a boundary to prevent that from happening or continuing to happen, then that's not pride. That's you protecting yourself. Um, yeah.
I think with what you just said, Sister Tante, I think pride tends to be more characteristic of a focus on self, and it's only self that you're regarding, as opposed to when it's not coming from a place of pride, you're actually thinking about that other person as well. So when I take you out of my inner circle, it's not necessarily just, well, I don't want you in my inner circle. No, you're harming yourself as well. Like, this is the space you're not performing well in. So let me get you out of that space. So it's not just me thinking about me, it's also me thinking about you. Uh, so I think that's where you can sort of make sure that it's not just prideful, it's not just selfish, it's with regard to that other person as well. And yet you can see it's mutually beneficial that I set this boundary. Okay.
Yeah, I was pushing the wrong thing to unmute myself. So yeah, I 100% agree. I'm just trying to read these comments and questions that are coming up, and you can add a few more if you have questions. We have a few more minutes to take. We can take a couple of more questions, but we just know that this topic is so. It's just huge. It's huge. I mean, there's so many, because we live in this world, and we've all been hurt by, and we have people that have just been raised in different situations, or people have different personalities, and sometimes people are just not nice, right? And so we've all experienced being hurt by other people, and so it's something that happens, especially being hurt in a family circle. I mean, that is that's where it hurts the most, when the ones you love the most hurt you. And so we really struggle at times to forgive the ones that we love, because we love them so much, and the hurt that they can cause just seems to hurt in a different way. It seems to hurt worse than people that may not do a nice thing to you, but you're really not that close to them, or you just don't have that invested relationship. And so forgiveness, especially in the family circles amongst husband and wives, is huge. And it doesn't have to be like things of just infidelity. It doesn't have to be that. Just, I see couples all the time that just, struggle forgiving the other person for so many different things and elements that happen within the marriage. And they hold on to bitterness for years and years and years. And I say that, and then by the time they recognize what's happening, the relationship is basically, it's over. They're not connected anymore, because they held on to that bitterness and unforgiveness for so long that never healed, and their connection and their relationship just fell apart. They were never able to come back together again in an emotional, intimate way, to be able to heal. It's possible. With God, all things are possible, but because the resentment was held on for so long, they just completely grew apart. Did you want to add anything to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for bringing it up. I think it's interesting that we talked about forgiveness in terms of extending forgiveness. Um, it should also then be discussed in terms of how do you solicit forgiveness, and how do you kind of say I'm sorry, because I think we have all been victim to a horrible apology. Who here has not gotten the "I'm sorry if I offended you"?
Yeah, that's not an apology.
And how often do you hear like you'll hear politicians, "I'm sorry if I offended you." Like, and you'll hear these like little words that take back everything that they gave. You know, we've all gotten poor apologies. So let's talk about the main elements to actual meaningful apologies. So I just mentioned this process that you can go through to actually um, forgive someone. So now, why don't we talk about how we can use that process to actually apologize better? So that's what we want to go through now. So I started by mentioning the uncovering phase, right? So now imagine you've wronged this person and you now want to take some time to think about what have I taken from them? How did I hurt them? And what has it deprived them of? Because it would be tragic to say, I'm sorry to a person, and you've never taken the time to think about what you took from them. Okay. And so as you now think about what it is that you have taken from them, and as you now begin this process of empathizing, and especially if you can see it to the point where you can literally conclude, I don't deserve their mercy. I really don't deserve it. There's little I can do to actually deserve it. What the mindset it puts you in is the mindset to take responsibility for what you did, and it protects you from giving a false apology. We've all gotten a false apology that gave and then took it right back because it had a dirty qualifier. But now it positions you to say, I was wrong. This is what I understood I took from you. And I realize technically I can never kind of give that back to you in a sense. And I want to take responsibility for that. I'm sorry. I apologize. Not if I offended you. I apologize because I offended you. I know that I did. And
Absolutely.
I don't, what's that?
I just said absolutely. That's the way it should be. Not if I offended you, but because I did do this wrong
Because
thing.
I offended you. And so now I don't deserve it, and I realize that I'm asking for something I don't deserve. If you could be so kind as to forgive me, I would be grateful for it, but I understand if you couldn't because I actually don't deserve it. Man, what a different space. What a different space. But you would get that because you took the time to really think about it and uncover it. Someone in the chat had mentioned scripture outlining a process for reconciliation. I believe it's in Matthew 7. And it's in Matthew 7 where it says, if you have a conflict with your brother, go to your brother and have that discussion, have the conflict between you and your brother, right? But I would add another verse to even that. And the verse I would add is, before you remove the speck out of your brother's eye, remove the beam from your own. That's like saying if they have a speck in their eye, you've got a plank in your head. So imagine the work involved in getting that plank out. By the time you do that, you're going to have a lot more understanding and empathy to deal with the speck in your brother's eye. And so this is an important part of reconciling, empathizing and understanding what it is you've done so that you can plead with the humility that is deserved. What are your thoughts, sis?
Yes, that. I 100% agree with everything that you said, and that, and I think it was Matthew 18. Is that the scripture they were trying to quote? Or when you said Matthew 7, when you said go to your
It might be
brother?
Matthew 18. It's probably
Yeah,
Matthew 18.
yes. And so, yeah, definitely you can, to reconcile, yes, you can go and you can speak with them. It doesn't mean that they're going to see your point, that they're even going to ask for forgiveness. But if they're on the other side that you need to be the one asking for forgiveness, then reconciliation is definitely the way to go to that person and apologize. And really, it's whenever you are feeling that emotion and that feeling of, wow, I hurt this person, I need to make it right with them. You can go into that space, and it can help with reconciliation for sure. And they should see, I want to say, like, when you're really sorry for something and you're asking for forgiveness, it should hurt you is because you hurt them as much as it's hurt them. Like, you should be so broken about what happened. Like, it, especially when I'm thinking of couples and just for everyone else. But when you really love someone and you've hurt them, that should hurt you just as deeply as well, because you love them. So they should see that brokenness in you as well.
Well, it's interesting because if you take the time to develop that empathy that you just talked about, Sister Tante, like, you wouldn't be glib, you wouldn't be dismissive, you wouldn't be insensitive and asking in a just a glib way. And there's another thing you wouldn't do. You wouldn't have the attitude of get over it. Oh, you're still talking about that? You
Yeah,
know,
that's not
like,
forgiveness.
oh my goodness. As
You
opposed to
just made it worse.
imagine, in contrast to that, imagine if from a periodically you actually revisit that person and you're like, I still think about how it is I wronged you, and I'm in awe that you were able to forgive me, and you let that person tell you, you know what, you don't have to bring it up anymore. But you show them, I remember. And let me tell you this, when you remember, it allows them to forget. And when you forget, it forces them to remember.
Yes, I think this is our last question, but I think it's a good one. How many times should I apologize for something if the person keeps bringing it up?
You know what's
That's
interesting about that?
a good one. Go ahead.
You know what's interesting about that? The person continuing to bring it up could highlight that you've missed an element of it. You've missed an element in your apology. There's something that has not satisfied them, and that's why they might still keep bringing it up. Now, sure, sometimes it could be a person just being, I don't know, awful. That could, but I think I like to go through life more seeing, hey, what role could I play in this? How could I be better? And what I would be exploring is, have I really gone through the exercise to understand what I took from them? Have I effectively then articulated that to them? Did I witness that they really resonated with my words? And that's the process I would go through to see if I really and truly have satisfied and made a meaningful attempt at gaining their mercy.
Mm-hmm. I know I said that one was our last. This is definitely our last. I mean, they keep popping up, but okay. There's so many good ones. And Clint said, can we do a part 2? We may, because they keep coming. But how can I move on from someone who didn't really apologize for something, but believe they did, and that's all they offer? So that goes back to all of our answers from before. Like, if that's all they're offering you, unfortunately, it's sad for them. This is definitely where you set a boundary, because obviously they are not aware of their actions or behavior enough to not do it again. So it's possible. I mean, so I think setting boundaries could be a very good idea in that situation. But the forgiveness, again, that is for you. that is, unfortunately, they didn't do an appropriate apology to you, but that does not stop you from going through the 4-step process and having the healing that you deserve. But definitely setting boundaries is a part of that.
Yeah, Sunshine, thank you for that question. And Sister Tante, spot on. What I would add is, first of all, in the book, they do advocate for forgiveness being really directed for the offender. Like, so they're like, not for your benefit, for the offender's benefit. They really try to center it on that. Good, best wishes with that, in terms of really making it that. But the other thing I would say is free yourself from being dependent on something that is outside of you. You can't control getting that.
Yeah.
You can't control it. And so you don't want to cramp your life by waiting for something that somebody else has to deliver.
Right.
Yeah. So it's really important that you give yourself this gift and understand that no, I'm not gonna cut off my nose to spite my face. I'm not gonna harbor negative emotions. No, I'm gonna go through the process of ridding myself, of this, and don't wait for that. I do want to shamelessly plug my challenge.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to mention that too, but we're going to close off with that.
Oh, no, thank you.
Wish our viewers a good evening, but go ahead.
Yeah. So let's do this. So it's challenge.killingburnout.com. We are currently engaged in a 5-day challenge. So we started yesterday. And we're ending on Thursday, where we're gonna have gifts, iPad, iPhone,
enticing.
Yes, earbuds, Apple earbuds, and Amazon gift cards. And for what? We are doing these cool challenges, exposing people to important, vital areas of your life, but helping them gain mastery, over their lives. So we're just giving them a snippet of what we do at the Mastermind Institute. And so really fun experience. It's 7 p.m. Pacific time, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday is our grand finale. So that's where we do our awards ceremony. And you'll want to come, you'll want to participate. It's super fun. And thank you for the time to share about it. So
for sure. And they can get all the information at challenge.killingburnout.com. Okay.
Absolutely.
So definitely take that, jot that down, guys. It's not too late. They might have missed 2 nights, but they can still get a lot of information coming Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So 3 nights.
And tonight.
Oh, you know what? Because I'm ahead of you. I forgot.
That's nice.
All right, you guys can, check it out tonight. This is free, right?
It's totally free.
Okay, guys, go check it out. You only missed 1 night. This is good. Oh man, I'm so stuck in my central time zone. I forgot your Pacific time zone. So good. Yeah, go check it out if you guys, if that interests you. And I know it will be a blessing. I think we have to do a part 2. I mean, even though, because there's another person said, please do a part 2. And someone else asked that too. So I think we can do a part 2 and definitely invite your friends and family, invite people and say, hey, I'm listening to this powerful program on forgiveness. And so invite your friends and family, and we'll announce it this week as well. So those who weren't here for this one will get the other one. So if you had more questions, definitely prepare them for us for next week. So we're going to have to say goodbye for now, but have a good evening. And for those of you who are not tired and want to go to the challenge.killingburnout.com, definitely do that. So you still can do that tonight as well. All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.